Hello everyone, Storm1 here. Today we'll be tracking a cutoff low that's going to bring in a severe weather setup over parts of the central Southern Texas by Monday and eventually moves farther to the east on Tuesday in a little bit more of a larger scale over parts of the deep south and possibly getting as far north as the lower Ohio Valley. Before we get started in this video, if you guys like weather related content, you can subscribe to my channel. We do stuff here all the time on this channel. Plus, we might have another update or two on this subject as well, so definitely stay tuned for more updates as well. We're going to start with the Storm Prediction Center, day one. Not really much to talk about, maybe some thunder over parts of the four corner states. But we start to change things up tomorrow. So tomorrow is Sunday. We got a slight risk for severe weather from northeastern Kansas up into southwestern Minnesota. Tornado probabilities, there's a very low 2% chance. And if I'm going to be honest, I really don't see much of a tornado risk on this up here, despite it having very strong wind shear. We'll get a little bit more detail with this here in a moment. But damage winds, if any storms form, damage and winds will be the main concern. Hail will be a possibility with some of those storms too. Day 3, which is Monday, got a March risk for parts of Central and Southern Texas. You get on to day 4, which is Tuesday, got a 50% slight risk for most of Mississippi. And I think this is going to get a little bit more expansive on the day 3 update, which will be released later tonight. But let's talk about tomorrow's system. And we're going to start off by looking into the NAM. There's going to be a big low that's going to spin off over parts of Dakotas. It's supposed to drop, I think, somewhere between the 990 to maybe 985 range. So it's going to be a pretty strong low, which is going to help create a lot of wind. This is the low of a jet, 850 millibars. I'd say it's a pretty strong low of a jet. Anywhere from about 50 to 60 knots, with some areas getting to the 60 to 65 knot range. So pretty good low of a jet. But if we're looking at dew points, yeah, dew points are lacking a little bit, at least from the NAM. Well, actually, most models. We'll check out the other ones in a moment. But from the NAM's perspective, dew points in general will be anywhere from the upper 50s to low 60s. Not really the best environment for severe weather, and this is really going to be one of the limiting factors. If you're checking instability, well, there isn't much there. But not only there's not much instability, there's actually a decent amount of sign in. And actually, some areas, sign in values get between the negative 200 to negative 400 range, which can also help lead to a cap, which will prevent shower and thunderstorm development. And if we were to check out the supercell composite here, some decent values, really 2 to 3. But if I were to get a sounding in west central Iowa, we get a much better idea what the setup really looks like. We've seen dew points, instability. What does it look like on a forecast sounding? Alright, we got a good hodograph. Nice large curve to a hodograph, which is an indication of strong wind shear. Wind shear values, SRH, or storm radial velocity, it's really anywhere from about 350 to almost to 500. But if you look at CAPE, which is your instability, it's below 1,000. Now, I think with setups like these, especially with strong wind shear, it won't take a whole lot of instability for severe weather. But there's another thing that will be a limiting factor, and that's a cap. Anytime your temperature line crosses this blue dotted line, that's an indication of a drought or a cap. Showers and thunderstorms can have form in a cap, and really, with a sounding looking like this, that's an indication of a strong cap. So you're not going to get anything that's going to develop there. You also will notice that your gray line, which is your dew point line, is pretty far away from the red line, which is an indication of dry air. Which, with it sounding like this, there's a pretty strong elevated mix layer. In the low levels, we really back off, but there's still a decent amount of dry air down there. But if a thunderstorm were to form in this environment here, really the main concern would be damage and winds. typically air can move a little bit more freely in dry air than moisture, if that makes any sense. And in theory, you could get stronger updrafts and you could get stronger downbursts uh, with that. So, but that's if thunderstorms could develop. And I'll tell you what, thunderstorms are not going to be able to develop in a cap like that. And that really shows up really almost anywhere, really. Lap rates are pretty good in the upper levels. DK, you can see there's elevated to about 1100. But really, your main limiting factors is going to be all this dry air. Your dew point numbers are not going to be that impressive, and you got this cap to deal with. So honestly, it would not surprise me if the SPC downgrades to a margin risk on their next update. But we'll see. They might maintain that slight risk, but we'll really get a better idea of what really goes on, especially with dew points as well. There's some other models out there like the HER model that shows dew points generally in the mid to upper 50s, which is not really great either, and even lower CAPE values. So overall, I don't think a whole lot's going to happen in this up here. So I don't think we're going to worry about this too much. But despite it having no severe weather risk, or regardless if there's going to be a severe weather risk or not, it is going to be very windy out there. If I were to show you, if we go to the HER model, you can see our superset composite. It's not nearly as impressive. But if we're going to check out wind gusts, with a strong low like that in the Dakotas, it's going to produce a lot of wind. In the warm sector, we could see wind gusts at least widespread anywhere from 40 to 50 miles per hour. Now, this is in knots. If I were to go to southeastern Nebraska, her model says there could be a wind gust of 52 knots. In miles per hour, that could be somewhere in the 55 to 60 mile per hour range. So regardless of severe weather, it is going to be very windy, and that by itself could cause some problems like some isolated power outages. That's going to make driving difficult in high profile vehicles, and that's going to lead to some tree damage out there. So regardless of severe weather, it's going to be very windy out there as well. And I also should note, really quick, if I were to go to the United States view and go to, if we have it, we may not, or actually, yeah, we do, precipitation type. So here's your low right here, which indicates, at least for an AMO, a 983 millibar low. It's pretty strong. Check out the backside of the system here. That's quite a bit of snow for parts of Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. So this could bring a little winter storm for some of those areas, and that could spread into parts of North Dakota and maybe getting as far south as South Dakota. At least South Dakota could see some snowflakes, but maybe not winter storm territory. As that low pressure system moves off to the northeast, here's our next system we're going to talk about down there across parts of the Severn Plains. But I want to check out the European model. This is 500 millibar winds, and this is what it looks like at the moment. You got big trough moving across the northwest, which is bringing in much needed precipitation for those areas. Meanwhile, we also got this trough out here in the parts of the Pacific. You can see here, this trough here is going to kind of merge with the main trough over parts of the western U.S. And this trough down here, that's right now in parts of the Pacific Ocean, it's going to try to bring some trouble for the Severn Plains into the deep south by early next week. So our big system, which is right here, that's going to bring in quite a bit of snow in the backside of the system. Going to bring a lot of wind in the warm sector in the Midwest. And as that system moves away, we get this cutoff low over parts of the Severn Plains. And if we were to move on to Monday night, we may try, or maybe try to get a negative tilt trough at that point, but the trough gets a little bit better as we move on to Tuesday, which here's peak time heating on Tuesday, and here's our low right here, which at this point here, it'll be slow weakening, but despite it having a weakening low, we got this negative tilt trough in place, which can help elevate the severe weather risk, especially in the deep south. given where our low pressure system is going to be placed at that point. Let's check out the NAM model, and it basically shows pretty much the same thing here. Our trough over parts of the Pacific is going to merge with the main trough that's up in the western U.S., and that's going to merge briefly. By the time this low here gets up to Canada, really these two troughs here, or this trough here, is going to split into two. The southern one's going to become a cutoff low, which you can see here at this point here by Monday night into early Tuesday morning, it becomes a little bit negative tilt over Texas. But like I said, with the European model as well, it becomes negatively tilt by peak time heating on Tuesday. So there's an agreement with some of the model guidance. So that's a good start. But let's check out some other things like the low of a jet. Let's go back to Monday real quick. And really, if we go to peak time heating on Monday, you got a pretty good low of a jet over parts of Texas, even up to Oklahoma. Generally about 40-50 knots. Not nearly as strong as up to the Midwest, but still strong enough to support some good wind shear. Let's check out dew points. Up in Midwest, dew points overall were barely getting into 60. But if you were to look down into Severn, Texas on our cutoff low, man, we got dew points in the upper 60s to low 70s. And that's plenty for at least for thunderstorm development. But it's also great for severe weather. If we were to check out Cape, we got some good Cape values out there. Generally anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 joules per kilogram. Let's kind of zoom in on this. Here's a much better look. And generally 1 to 2,000, even some areas getting up to 2,500. So that's enough for severe weather too. If we were to kind of combine these two here to a composite, this is a supercell composite. And really, when you get to those yellow colors, that's an elevated risk. But when you get to those orange colors, okay, you get a pretty good environment for supercells, which we got numbers in the 5 to 6 range, which indicates a good environment for some supercells. If we were to get a sounding out there in South Central Texas, check out what the NAM all shows, it's definitely better than up in the Midwest for tomorrow. And geeks are not too bad. Now, wind shear is not nearly as strong, but it would still be enough to support severe weather risk. Really, 150 or above is good for severe weather, and we got values really up to 200. So that's good enough. Hodograph looks good. Elevate mix layer is there, which will be able to help kick away some of that unorganized convection, and more importantly, instability. Surface base is up to 2200. So you got a pretty good environment here. And oh yeah, downdraft Cape closing in on 800. So if I were to tell you the threats just by the sounding here alone, damage winds will probably be the main hazard. Some hail will be possible, and we also cannot rule out the potential force of tornadoes. 3 Cape is 130, which would be just enough for a tornado risk as well. So not a bad environment at all, and definitely supportive for some supercells. But I think most of those supercells won't be tornadic, but a couple of those could be tornadic for Texas. As we get to the overnight hours, the environment for severe weather does enhance. You're starting to get some numbers up to an 8, but it also can continue into the overnight hours. Eastern Texas, western Louisiana, maybe as far north as southwestern Arkansas, you could see a low in severe weather risk overnight, which by this model here around that point, you got a better low of a jet, which we got pretty much generally 50 to 60 knots in some areas, but instability kind of hangs on a little bit. Now, it's not as impressive as peak time heating on Monday, but it'll still be enough to support some severe weather. About 800 is still not bad, but if you move into southeastern Texas, it's still in the 1,000 to 2,000 range, which will be enough. If I were to go back to the supercell composite and move on to peak time heating on Tuesday, The severe weather risk does push a little bit farther east. Now it's more focused in the parts of Mississippi, southeastern Louisiana, and maybe even as far north as northeastern Arkansas, and that could spill into parts of southeastern Missouri and western Tennessee. If I were to get a sounding here in Mississippi and see what it shows. Okay, Elvin Mixler, at least at 500 millibars, we got an Elvin Mixler in place. But check out your wind shear. Wind shear anywhere from about 250 to 350. That's enough. It's a little bit weaker in the sounding here. It's 1200, but it'll still be just enough. And our photograph looks good too. In 3K, it's about 150. So really the main threats I see with this sounding here, there could be some hail given by the Elvin mix layer in the upper levels. Damage and winds will be possible, but tornadoes will be an elevated threat too. So really all hazards would be possible with an environment like that. There's another area up into northeastern Arkansas, which we'll take a look at that too. And really it's not area is impressive, at least from what the Superset composite shows. Not a very good environment up here. Got much stronger Elvin mix layer up here. A little bit of instability, barely into that 1,000 threshold. Downdraft cape is about 739. This will be a more favorable for at least for strong thunderstorms. Maybe not so much for severe weather, but maybe for strong thunderstorms. And I think the main risk could be some small hail and maybe some strong winds with it. But not nearly as impressive as down in parts of Mississippi and Louisiana. And that threat could continue into parts of Tuesday night too, which would be another thing to watch. And oh yeah, if we were to check back out dew points, you got 62 points, really getting as far north as parts of Illinois and Indiana. So not bad up there, but instability at that point will be really lacking. And also I think convection-wise would be a little bit more widespread, which will actually be a good thing because some of these areas are dealing with a pretty good drought right now. And I can say that for myself here in Central Kentucky. We really need some rain. Which, speaking of rain, if we were to check out the rainfall amounts from the NAM model, it's got some pretty good totals out there. Now, I don't think it's going to get up like 7 inches of rain like this model suggests, but it can give a good soaking rain for parts of Oklahoma, Missouri, up into parts of Illinois, and even as far south as parts of Texas. These areas really need some rain. So this is it. So this system not only will bring severe weather, it will have a decent amount of rain with it, which is the good news. We could really use the rain for some of these areas, especially in eastern Oklahoma where they're in the exceptional drought territory. So at least there's some good news in this forecast for these areas as well. But kind of going, well, let's actually check a couple other models real quick. This is GFS, not nearly as impressive, but shows a swath at about 1 to 3 inches out there. And then from the European model, basically shows the same thing. So at least all these models showing some good news out there. Okay, going back to severe weather, this is the areas I'm watching here. So, and we also got the time zone here too. So for Monday, I'm paying attention to mainly central and in parts of southern Texas. So that includes Dallas and Fort Worth, Austin, and also San Antonio. And I think all hazards will be possible. Some damage to winds, some hail, and we can now roll out an isolated tornadoes. Excuse me, that threat could go into Monday night over parts of eastern Texas, western Louisiana, and southwestern Arkansas. I think at that point, I think we may see a pretty decent line of thunderstorms out there. So that will help kick away that hail threat, but the damage wind and isolated tornado risk will still be around by that point there. But I think storms will be less impressive compared to peak time heating on Monday. Then on Tuesday, the area becomes way more expansive, gets as far north as southeastern Missouri, far southern Illinois, southwestern Kentucky. It also includes the western half of Tennessee, including Nashville, eastern Arkansas, most of Mississippi, the eastern half of Louisiana, and parts of western Alabama. I think Tuesday looks better out of Monday and Sunday. And I think the main risk hazard would be damage winds, some hail, and I think their concern would be tornadoes. I think the tornado risk overall will be higher on Tuesday, given by the dynamics out there. Still got some questions when it comes to instability. Really, in this range here, models are not very impressed, but what I've seen over the past several severe weather setups this year, things like models begin to uptrend within 48 to 24 hours of the event. So that'll be interesting to see if that occurs. If that does happen, that can help alleviate the severe weather risk. But it is definitely something to watch for now. But anyways, guys, that's all for guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, like this video, hit that like button. If you like my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put in the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys' questions. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye and have a good day.